I'm trying to get the gun from point A to point B as quick as possible. This is going to be our fastest draw stroke, but it's also going to be the most difficult to do on demand successful. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Pros Guides to Shooting, Practical Meets Tactical. In this episode, we'll be covering the second pillar, which is weapons handling. In weapons handling, we'll be covering draw stroke mechanics, index, and reloads. All right, guys. So in the first episode, we talked about shooting foundation and talking about some of the principles, right? Now, once we have a better understanding of what here needs to look like, we're gonna start adding some layers, right? And there's a weapons handling component to this as well as a shooting component, right? But the focus is gonna be on the weapons handling side, merging into the shooting component side. So we're gonna be working on draw stroke. There's 3 different types of draw stroke. We're not gonna dive too deep into them. We'll just quickly explain them. I don't care what draw stroke you use, but the 3 main ones that we see out there is the stab, the snatch, and the scoop. All right, there's pros and cons to both. If you are going to use one, I recommend you either stick with the stab, or the snatch or the scoop. All right, the stab, when you're coming into the gun, that requires you to drive all your momentum down into the gun, then setting your grip and coming back up. The reason why I don't like that one, although it's taught in law enforcement because it gives you a higher priority or higher probability of getting your master grip, it's going to be the slowest, right? And we're always reactionary in law enforcement. And if you're shooting competition, it's obviously a time-based sport, and so is real life. It's a time-based sport. We want to get every 1/10 of a second we can on our side. I don't believe it's necessary. With the proper amount of training and dry fire, you'll be able to do a nice snatch, which is just driving to the gun and snatching the weapon out of the holster. So there's no downward momentum. You're just coming up, snatching the gun, and building your master grip on the presentation. All right, the scoop. The scoop is a little bit different. I don't necessarily recommend this for law enforcement as well. This takes a lot more energy to be able to employ this out of a retention holster. And we have videos on this in our 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹𝗙 Tacticals, so we're not going to dive into that. But if you're interested in the mechanics of the draw stroke, you can check out that on our YouTube channel. But the scoop, just to give you a quick overview, is I'm trying to get the gun from point A to point B as quick as possible. This is going to be our fastest draw stroke, but it's also going to be the most difficult to do on demand successful. So for the scoop, the goal is to get the gun from point A to point B out as quickly as possible, right? You can see there's no lag with the gun. All right, it just comes out of the holster and straight to where I want it in front of my eye target line. All right, I'll be utilizing a scoop draw for the demonstration. Nonetheless, you can use your particular draw stroke that you like for this, and we'll just talk about a couple key points regardless of what your starting position is. All right, so we're going to use a drill called the command drill from 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹 Tactical that we like to use. And what this does, this gives you quantifiable data of how quick it takes you to draw your gun, get it to eye target line, and be able to fire an well-placed, accurate round. We'll start off nice and slow at 1.5 seconds. This is kind of traditionally the law enforcement standard, 7 yards, a zone hit at 1.5 seconds. I believe that is a very low standard and very easy to accomplish. Nonetheless, if you're trying to figure out how to present this gun from B to A or A to B, however you want to say it, this is a great drill when you're using a process-oriented training matter to figure out what you need to do. So I don't like to give you a ton of pointers of like, do this, do that, drop elbow, push out. That's 6-step, 5-step, whatever law enforcement comes up with process to drawing a gun. I believe it's counterproductive, and it's taking up bandwidth that should be prioritized towards picking a small spot and making sure we have the correct pressures, right? Nonetheless, you know that we didn't do the draw stroke in the beginning portion, and that's because when we're drawing a gun, we have to understand what we are trying to create, All right, so if I don't know what I'm trying to create here, then how do I know what I'm trying to get from the holster, right? So I need to know what this looks like first, and then all I want to do is get the gun to that spot with the correct pressures and structure that we worked on with the doubles. All right, so that is your next layer, okay? But first, we're just going to focus on the command drill, which is going to give us a little bit of data of how effective we are to present the gun. So with this drill, I'll just do it dry real quick for you so you understand. I'm going to set a par time on this, right? So I'll have an initiation beep. So there'll be a beep that tells me to start the action, right? Obviously, we want to start reacting to the stimulus as soon as possible, whether that stimulus is real life or it's a buzzer. I'm trying to explode to that gun and get my hands to it as quick as possible, all right? Key component here to having a good draw that gives you time to set up your grip is making sure we get our support hand to the gun. The last thing I want to do is to draw this gun and then have to catch it out here, all right? This is going to lead to one of two things or both. It's going to lead to either I shoot with the incorrect pressures, right? Or I take the time to settle the pressures and then I'm firing too slow. All right, now I'm giving back time to my adversary unnecessarily or giving up time in a match unnecessarily, right? And in both disciplines, we are looking to gain as much time as we can on our side without sacrificing accuracy. So the drill will look like this. We'll have 1.5 seconds on the par time. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to fire one round on the second beep. So the first beep's going to be the initiator. When the second beep goes off, I will fire one round. What we'll get is a reaction time from that. That reaction time, depending on what it tells us if we were ready to shoot or not. Early on, it's going to be very easy. As we start getting farther or faster on the presentation times, you're going to see that those reaction times are going to start to get closer to the human response time of being able to process information, which is 0.25 seconds roughly. For males, I believe it's 0.23. None of that's really that important. But this is what it'll look like. All right, so that gave me a reaction time of 16. All right, so well below. You notice that I waited for the beep. The gun was hanging out there for an absorbent amount of time, right? When I'm drawing the gun, when we're doing this drill, I am getting on the trigger and I'm getting ready to shoot. I want to be ready to shoot right away, but I am waiting for that second stimulus. So 1.5 seconds, we'll do a couple of them, but that clearly is extremely easy to do. All right, a couple more. All right, that gives us, not good at math, that's a 14 reaction time. All right, so we're right there. I'll just do one more. All right, same thing, right? So as soon as that buzzer's going off the second time, I'm ready to go. You can see the accuracy is right there. It's right in the middle of those black pasters. Not an issue. So what are we going to do? We're going to dial that down. All right, so I'll go to my timer here, and you're obviously going to need a pack timer to do this. We'll drop it down 3/10. Traditionally in a class, we'll drop it down 2/10 per student, but just kind of to expedite this process, we're going to drop it down 3/10 for this one. Things that I'm assessing when I'm doing this drill, right? This is the important. I'm not just throwing the gun out there. Obviously, we're only shooting one round, so there's no real recoil management that is required, but I'm still assessing that, right? So I'm drawing the gun. I'm making sure that it presents exactly to where I'm looking, which we'll talk about that later on in index, but these are things that I'm thinking about. Am I able to draw the gun from point A to point B? Does it land exactly where I'm looking? Am I ready to shoot sooner before the beep goes off? Then when I smash on the trigger, how does the gun behave? Right back to the doubles process that we were working on and the one shot return. Yep, gun lifts and comes right back to that black pacer. All of these things are exactly what we've been working on in episode 1. We're just now adding some metrics and some mechanics to presenting the weapon into the fight. All right, so now we have a 1.2 par time. So that buzzer is going to go off in 1.2 seconds. All right, so that gave me an overall time of a 1:36. So that's a 16 reaction time. All right, so we're still with the same reaction time. Obviously the time is faster because the second beep is coming sooner. So we'll do a couple of them. Make sure that that's not luck, right? Still paying attention to how the gun's behaving, how is it presenting, how is it returning. I don't want to let go of any of these factors, right? Because it's all going to build upon this. All right, that's a 1.6. All right, and that's a 17. All right, so clearly within below the human response time. All that tells me is that I'm ready to shoot well before the beep is going off. So we'll just dial that down again. We'll dial this down to 1 second, right? So we'll go to 1 second. Can I draw this gun and get it to index precisely to where I want in 1 second from retention holster? We're talking about practical skills, competition skills used in the law enforcement perspective and lens. Yes, you could use competition gear. We're doing it from full duty gear just because cops, if you want to jump into competition, you want to apply these things, you don't have to go buy new gear, right? Use what you have, learn the skills, and then if you decide you want to start diving into some of that gear, you can go upgrade to that later on if that's what you decide to do, or you can keep using your duty gear. It's not going to hinder you that much. The shooting and the understanding and the information is what's going to lead you to success, not what's on your belt or how it's set up. All right, so now we're at 1 second. All right, so that's a 19 reaction time. Still nice, perfect group. Gun is landing precisely, and the black pasters. Gun is returning back to the black pasters, checking all the boxes. I'm just doing it sooner now. Do a couple of those. All right, that is a 20 response time, so a little bit slower. And what happened there was I had to correct the gun a little bit, right? So the gun didn't land exactly on the black pacer, slightly off, more than accountable. We're talking like a ½ inch, but I made that correction. And then as I was making that correction, the buzzer went off. So I wasn't like ready to act immediately. Still well within the human response time and acceptable. We just want to be under like 0.25 realistically from that second beep, but obviously sooner is better. So we'll do that again, one last one, and then we'll dial it down again. All right, that's a 19 response time again. Notice that I'm getting my support hand to the gun as soon as possible. As soon as this gun is breaking and leveling out, I am chopping in to the gun, setting my fulcrum points, wrapping my grip, and driving the gun to my eye line with the correct pressures that I learned from the doubles to be ready to shoot instantly when I get the appropriate visual confirmation level that I need to execute based on that difficulty of target and distance, which is not very far, 7 yards or so at an A zone. All right, we'll talk about confirmation levels in the next video portion, but right now you just need to know that. All right, so we'll dial it down again a little bit more. So we'll drop this down to 0.8. So now I'm going to have 0.8 seconds to draw the gun and index cleanly on those black pasters. All right, so that's right on the cusp there of a 20 reaction time. All right, so 21 reaction time, sorry. So I need to be a little bit faster on that, right? So I'm gonna increase my hand speed so I can get that gun out there, stopped on the dot, or stopped on the black pacers and shoot. Still 100% accountable, still a nice tight group. I just want to get that gun there sooner. The sooner I get that gun there and the pressure set, the more time I have to collect information and make decisions and shoot more accurately. So obviously we want to get this no matter how difficult the shot is, 25 yards, 35 yards, 50 yards, 5 yards. I want the draw stroke to be as fast as possible, and then I'm going to use that extra time to either make decisions or apply whatever shooting scheme or strategy I need to be accountable. All right, let's do that again. See if we can get that a little bit faster. There we go. So that's putting us right there at an 18. All right, screw it. We're gonna dial it down. All right, to, we're gonna get too crazy. We'll go to 0.7. All right, that's pretty fast out of a retention holster. This is where you see we might make some mistakes. I might have to start shooting with less information. Right now, up until this point, I've been shooting with max confirmation, a stop dot, and you can see the accuracy right here. Nice little tight group up until this point. Now at 0.7, if I don't do my job, when that beep comes, if I don't get that gun out, I'm gonna be forced to shoot with less information. But the goal for this particular drill is to get the gun stopped, all right, before that time and maxed in with confirmation so I can execute surgical accuracy. All right, we got 0.7 on the clock here. Let's see if we can get this party started here and see if we can be under the human response time. So we are at a 23 reaction time. All right, so 23 reaction time, that's a total time, which you're never gonna be under that time, right? Because you have to wait for the stimulus of the second beep. We are right on the alpha line perf, and that's because that gun did not fully land directly on that paster and the buzzer went off and I had to shoot it. So I'll try to clean that up. I have the reaction time, right? I just didn't have a clean enough index for that speed, right? There is no margin for error at 0.7 out of a retention holster to have any cleanup work. So I need that to land precisely. We still have an accountable hit, but I want them to be inside that paster. But we are definitely at like what I'm capable of doing here. But nonetheless, this is training, right? There we go. So we're at an 86 there. That's an 86 reaction time. I did have to wait for a little bit less information, but that just was we'll talk about confirmation later. It wasn't a stop dot, it was a little less information. It was a streaking dot into that hit zone, which gave us a perfect hit right into that cluster. We'll show you here, I'll show you the mistake, the one mistake before. So here was the one the first time, and then this was the round that was the cleanup, or the last iteration, right? So good, needed a little work, we made the correction. I locked into a spot visually better, driving that gun, which we'll talk about when we're talking about index, right to that spot, which allowed me to shoot surgically accurate at a blazing fast speed, and that gives you an overall time of an 86. Now, granted, if we were just shooting this on the first beep, that would be faster, right? But I have to wait for the 0.7 second beep. I can't press the trigger any sooner, right? So you're never, whatever you set your par time to, you're never gonna be able to beat that. All right, so that gives me a 16 reaction time off a 0.7 beep. Anything faster than this, I'm not going to be able to stop the dot. So this is the speed right here where I am working on at 0.7. Can I get that gun to stop at max confirmation at 0.7 out of a retention holster? I think that's about where it kind of exhausts itself. If you go to 0.6, 0.6 index is going to be pretty difficult out of a retention holster. Nonetheless, screw it, we'll try it. We'll see what happens, all right? We've been successful thus far, but I expect the wheels to come off here for this, or I'm just gonna have to shoot with a lot less information. Nonetheless, the point of this drill is not to apply shooting schemes, it is to work on draw stroke mechanics and get the dot to stop on a precise index and shoot with max confirmation, just to do it as fast as possible. So this is probably not going to happen, but let's just see what this looks like, because for you it might be different, right? You might be encountering this same problem that I'm going to encounter at 0.6 at 1 second. Nonetheless, it's all the same stuff. I'm thinking about How do I get the gun to land precisely there? How do I set the correct pressure so I can start shooting? When I shoot, how does the gun return? Does the pressure feel good? Does the gun feel like it's moving around in my hand? All these little things that we've been diagnosing with the doubles now comes into play with this additional layer and an additional stimulus that we now don't get the opportunity to say when we're gonna go. The box is gonna say when we go, just like real life. All right, so last one here. Let's give her hell and see what happens. We'll show you guys regardless. Whew. That's fast. So I had to just shoot with a shot at a very low confirmation level there, and I took this one right here. It was a bad index. Took that one right there. That gave me a reaction time of a 17 reaction time off a 0.6 index, right? We'll give that one more shot. This is where we're starting to, this is the speed where I'm starting to lose the validity of this drill, right? Because the time is so quick. It's not physically possible, I don't believe, for me to get this gun introduced and the dot stopped in 0.6, right? But we'll do one more and we'll see. But that is the point. We're trying to get the gun out and stopped with max information, right? We are now at the speed where that can't happen. But nonetheless, we're talking about training. I'll see if I can really get these hands moving and do that. Even if I'm accountable with the hit, most likely it's not going to be with a stop dot, but we'll talk about what I see. Yep, so that's an accountable hit right in the group there at an 85, right? So that's putting me right at the human response time, and that round was right here. But I did not have a stop dot, right? So that's at my physical human capability of being able to draw the gun at that speed with this setup, all right? Nonetheless, push yourself, see what's possible. You can definitely use this once we get into shooting schemes for other landerings and applications. But for this particular application, the goal is to draw the gun, to push yourself to draw the gun as fast as possible to get it to index correctly and get the dot to stop for max information. Once we get into shooting schemes, we can talk about applying different shooting schemes to different target difficulties. All right, guys, so now we're gonna talk a little bit about developing or over-developing our index, right? The index is a critical component for competition shooting and for law enforcement officers. We need that gun, like we've talked about before, to land precisely in a critical spot that we are looking at, right? Now, the problem with this is most people develop an index just from one system, like what I was doing before, right? I have my Drawstroke, I draw the gun, and I can get the pressure set, and I can bring the gun to the proper target eye line and all the components to be successful from one position. But in competition and in real life, you might not be able to start from that position. So when we're looking at doing our dry fire and we're looking at doing our training, we want to make sure we're adding in other positions and other things that could potentially throw us off and make us more likely to set the wrong pressures, have our support hand interface with the gun late, and see if we have the bandwidth to still pick a small spot while we're doing stuff that's not as common as a traditional draw stroke for us, right? So for this, we're gonna go back to the command drill again, right? This is gonna be a very low entry level way of working on index. And we're just using the command drill just because it's gonna give us some quantifiable data, because we have data off the traditional draw stroke of what other draw strokes are gonna do for us. So we'll go back to 1.5 seconds, and I'm just gonna go from hands above shoulders here, and I'll draw to the gun and present it. All right. All right, so obviously well within the time, 16 again. That's plenty of time there for us. We'll do that again. I shot that one too early. The gun was hanging out there, and I just pressed it without, so that one doesn't count. We'll do that again. Got to wait for that second beep, so it takes forever. There we go. All right, so that's 17. All right, so I'm just working a different angle. One thing you'll notice that I did, I find this to work in competition. I just give a quick look at my holster to guide my hand to it, because this is a position that I necessarily don't use. Depending on the application and what you're doing, that might not be viable, right? So I'll do now some with not looking at the holster, all right? At the 1.5 seconds. All right, same thing, that's a 16. No issues there. We'll just do one more for you guys, not looking at the holster. That's a 17, all right? So this is all reinforcing that regardless of where my hands are, regardless of where my eyes are, I can drive my eyes to a spot and I can get that gun to index precisely in, I mean, a pretty low hanging fruit there at 1.5, right? But we would just dial this up. So let's just dial it down. For argument's sake, we'll just go to 1 second. And you guys can adjust this accordingly to what you're seeing from your feedback and what you need for refinements. All right. Same thing, man. Like this is process-oriented training. You notice I'm not giving you any like crazy tips, right? It's like, hey, man, this is your body. Just know that I need to get the gun here, from here to there, in front of my eye line, and I need to have the correct pressure set that I learned from the doubles. Just embrace that, figure out the little nuances, learn the little stuff that you need, knowing that obviously if you get their support hand to the gun quicker, that's going to assist you in setting that grip sooner, which will allow you to shoot sooner. All right. All right, so we're down to 1 second. We'll do the same thing. We'll go eyes looking at the gun. So when I look at the gun, this is going to assist me in guaranteeing a good grip, but then I have to drive my eyes and pick a small spot and get the gun to index there sooner. So it makes the target acquisition a little harder, but it makes the mechanics a little easier. So we'll do both, and these are things that are good for you to switch back and forth. All right, so we'll start with a couple from the me looking at the gun and then having to quickly acquire my target at 1 second. All right, so we are right on the cusp there of a 23. Do one more. Alrighty, that's a 21 reaction time there, right? So in the standard right there, reacting off a 1 second index from looking at the gun, getting the gun to align right on our black paster, making sure all the other components that we talked about are set. So now we'll go eyes locked to the target, which will obviously assist in the index, right? But now I will be less or potentially less precise on the grip, right? So this is good to jump back and forth between these things. Yep, so that's a 21. For me, obviously, I work on this. That's way easier to get the gun to index precisely because I'm locked onto it and I'm just bringing it right to it. This one, when you're staring at the gun, yes, the grip feels like it's going to be ensured better from that position, but now I'm racing to pick a small spot while I'm racing to bring the gun up. It makes it a little bit more difficult. Nonetheless, play with both, all right? So we'll do a couple more like that, or one more like that, and then we'll move on. All right, and that is a 20 reaction time. You can see we got all good hits on the target, right? A nice cluster. So let's talk about something else. A big thing that I found, this is what's great about competition. When you shoot competitions, you will expose yourself to specific things that you never thought of in your training. And a while ago when I first started competing, I had to draw into a lean. And I never had a problem with index because I was shooting a bunch at the time, but I never drew and shot into a lean. And I remember not having my dot. And I was like, oh, shit. So I had to do some cleanup work. Went back, dry fired it. And what that simply was is that I've never drew the gun leaning out of a position, and since I was not exposed to that, I presented the gun differently, right? And if you present the gun differently and you don't get it right in front of your target eye line, you're not going to have a dot, right? So we need to expose ourselves to all different things to make sure that wherever we are, kneeling, standing, crouching, leaning, stepping out of position, stepping into position, however we have to draw that gun, we know exactly where we have to bring it to our target target eye line with the correct pressures, because all that matters, right? If we're trying to develop this index, everything has to be consistent. The gun needs to be in the same spot, the pressures on the gun need to be the same, and my presentation needs to be ending at the same endpoint to make all of this work. But the only way that's going to happen on demand is if we constantly change these micro variables to make that happen. Full well knowing that we need to be locked into a small spot to assist us in getting that precision on the gun to land, right? So for this particular thing, I'll just use a barrel, right? I'll stay close to this so I can't see that target on the buzzer. I'll draw the gun and I'll lean out, all right? And I'll present the gun. We'll do the same thing with the command drill, because this is going to give us some feedback on how quickly we can do that. Eventually you can get rid of the command drill and you can just execute off the first beep. So we're not going to go to 1.5 because that's just too slow. We'll go to 1.3. All right, so I'll have I'm not going to be able to see the target. I'm directly behind the barrels. I'm going to stand and then present in. So as I'm drawing, I'm going to be changing my position to lean out of this position, and then I'll be locking my vision to a small spot and seeing if I can get that gun to index precisely with all these moving components. So now we're going to execute on the command drill. We have a par time of 1.2 seconds. I'll be pressing the trigger on the second beep. All right, so yep, well under, that was a 12 reaction time. Pretty easy to do right in the group. We'll just do another one there real quick. I jumped that buzzer just slightly, so it's a great shot, but it didn't give me the data I needed. Do that one last time. There we go. All right, 15 reaction time. All right, so this is giving us exactly what we need. So it's set at 1.2, it's 135. That gives us a 15 reaction time. You can see we have good accountable groups, right? So our eyes are driving right to the spot that we need. This is great because this is giving us a visual barrier, right? So I have a visual barrier in front of me that's blocking my ability to pick that small spot. So I have to draw the gun, change my normal traditional shooting position, but still bring the gun to my target eye line that's on a lean, and quickly pick a small spot within a set time and execute all the shooting fundamentals subconsciously, right? So there's a lot of layers going on here. You can switch this up a million different ways. Another one you could do competition-wise, right? This is definitely a competition skill, right? But another just variation, right, of weapons handling. You could do a table start, right? This is very unrealistic for law enforcement. I don't know how you would end up with your gun empty on a table, have to load it and engage. But nonetheless, what you are doing is you are building a greater weapons handling skill to be able to execute on demand in any phase. So is it realistic? No. Is it making you better and more capable? Yes. All right, so just another thing. So now I'm gonna have to pick a gun up, reload it. So like when we talk about reloads, we'll talk about some of the things I'm doing here, but not right now. Then I'll have to drive my eyes up and index the gun. All right, so let me take the par time off this. So we'll just have a traditional par time. I'll hit the buzzer, or no par time, I'm sorry. No par time, hit the buzzer. I'm just gonna index the gun and the mag at the same time. I'm gonna load it, rack it, and fire one round. And we'll see what that produces here, right? Testing a lot of different weapons handling skills, because that's what this portion is about. Starting position could be hands above head, they could be hands below belt, doesn't really matter. All right, so that's a 195 with a good accountable hit. We're like 6-7 yards or so, 6-ish yards. That's not blazing fast. So we'll pick that up a little bit. All right, and that's a 194, right? We can see we still got our accountable hits. See that, Tanner? All right, we still got our accountable hits right in our grouping, but just once again, over-developing our index, over-developing our weapons handling and our ability to put this weapon into the fight from any type of situation. Another variation you could do, there's a million here, guys, right? You could do hands-on barrel, right? All right, so that was a 122, still accountable, right? We'll do one more, we'll try to pick that up. All right, and that was pretty good at a 107, and we're still 100% accountable. All I did there was just shoot with a little bit less information, which we didn't teach you yet, but we will talk about that shortly in the next series. So you can see 100% accountable, gun was landing exactly how we needed it to land, right? So important stuff here, right? What are we doing here, right? I'm starting my hands from a different position, forcing myself to build my master grip from a non-traditional spot. I'm forcing myself to have to quickly pick a small spot, input this weapon, press the trigger aggressively without changing anything in the shooting. All of this type of training, right? Process-oriented training, paying attention that when I do fire that one round, how does that gun return? I'm not forgetting about that, right? All these drills we could just execute with 2 rounds, right? Anything we just did with 1, now it's like, hey, do that with 2, all right? Because then we're gonna really be working weapons handling and then a lot more of the shooting. And I would keep it in the predictive realm of the doubles, right? Keep doing those doubles from all these different things. Same thing, because we did the double portion without the draw stroke, do that whole process from the draw stroke. All right, I'll give you an example of what that would look like. So still working on weapons handling, right? But now we're overlaying in a layer of shooting with that. Can I add the weapons handling, and does that allow me to shoot? We're going to be entering into this target at max information, right? So don't worry about when you start shooting right now. When you're doing this, draw the gun, let the dot stop. Obviously, we want to draw the gun as aggressive as possible, but once that dot is stopped, then I want you to continue to shoot in a predictive manner, and it'll look like this. All right, something like that. And then we would repeat this whole process going back, right? Same thing, right? I'm gonna do the exact same thing and repeat that doubles process. All right, go on back, still a nice tight group. All right, go on back, keep pushing it, right? Assessing exactly what that grouping is looking like, everything we need. We'll go check it out at the end. Okay, let's just go back to 25. But you would obviously, guys, you would work this through all the increments. All right, so you're gonna see it's gonna take me, my first round is gonna be a little bit slower, right, because of the distance. I'm gonna have to stop that dot. That's gonna take a little bit more time, but then once I start shooting, I'm still gonna be shooting in that predictive manner, tying cause and effect to everything that I see happening. All right, so we'll go on down and we'll check it out. Little bit of spreading, but obviously as we're getting farther back, it becomes a little bit more visually demanding. Definitely chucked one down here. That was actually not at the 25, that was at the 20, or what did we do? Whatever that middle yard line was, it was 15, 20-ish. I pushed on it and then was able to clean that up a little bit, right? But all we're doing is the exact same doubles process. We're just now adding the draw stroke in, so we have to draw the gun aggressively, bleed off that tension, stop the dot, and then execute predictive shooting. All right, so these are just different little layers that we can add in, that you want to add into your training to start building that surplus of skill. All right, guys, so now we're going to get into the next subcategory of weapons handling. One thing that I failed to mention at the beginning of this pillar was that a large portion of this weapons handling block can be done and accomplished and mastered, and should be mastered, in dry fire. So working on all the stuff we did with index and draw stroke, and now the stuff that I'm going to introduce you with reloads, this should be mastered in your house, in your basement, where you can get thousands of reps weekly to master this skill. When I come to the range, I want to prioritize shooting skill, movement skill, things where I need to see recoil, feel recoil, assess recoil. I want to prioritize my range time for that. For stuff that's solely weapons handling, I can do a majority of that work at home in dry fire, and then I'm introducing it in courses of fire where they'll present themselves where these components exist, but I'm not going to sit here and do the way we outline these blocks that much. All right, it'll be larger, more difficult courses of fire that have those components. The isolation will happen in dry fire for a large portion of this weapon handling. Now, when we're looking at reloads, consistency is king. All right, I am looking to have, yes, a fast reload, but it does me no good if I send a mag at the gun to reload it and I biff it and I bounce it off the side of the gun. I'm gonna end up losing triple the amount of time, right? So depending on how quick your hand speed is and how expedient you need that reload, you have to really gauge with how much heat you want to throw at that reload to be successful. For me, I'd rather take off a little bit of heat and have a consistent reload of 10 out of 10 times than crush it with a sub-second reload 4 out of the 10, right? Because those other 6 that I don't hit it, I've now lost an exponentially amount of time, probably close to 2-3 seconds additional, when I could have lost 2/10 off that reload and made a guaranteed 1.2, 1.3 second reload and got the gun back into the fight. So risk first reward, what you have to work on. In dry fire, send some heat at it, push yourself, see what the little nuances you need to do to get those 1-second reloads. When it comes down to execution, right, where it matters, whether that's a match or that's real life, I think it's advantageous to probably take a 10th or 2 off that reload with a couple of the key points I want to point out with you to guarantee and ensure that that gun is back up and ready to fight. All right, so things to look at for the reload. First thing I'm doing, right? We're obviously shooting, we've expended a certain amount of rounds, and either it's a stage where we're moving into another position where I need to have more rounds and I can bury that reload in the movement. So in competition, you'll do reloads while you're moving, so you can hide the reload speed, right? You never want to find yourself in a static reload in competition if you don't have to. Sometimes there's nothing you can do, but depending on your stage planning and things like that, if you can hide the reload time in movement, you're not penalized for it. So that's always a good thing. Same thing for real life. If I'm moving positions around a vehicle or whatever it may be, and I can hide a reload and get the gun back up where it makes sense, well, that's where I'm gonna do it, all right? But this is about the mechanics. You will figure out when that makes sense for your context of why you're doing it. Nonetheless, the mechanics are the same regardless of what we're doing. So whenever I decide to make a reload, all right, I'm gonna do a reload. The first thing I'm going to do is gonna be a simultaneous maneuver. I'm going to keep the gun upright and parallel to the ground, and let gravity do its job with dropping the mag, right? So I just wanna hit the mag release and let gravity take that mag out of the gun. Simultaneously, when I hit the mag release, I'm indexing my new mag. So that's happening at the same time. When I index the mag, I'm bringing the gun in slightly to a position. For me, I touch my tricep to my ribs. I know that's a consistent spot every time, whether I'm moving or I'm static. This will bring that gun to the same spot every single time. By doing that, that's gonna breed consistency because I know where the gun's gonna present. I roll my wrist over slightly and I drive my eyes to where I want the mag to go. Just like shooting, right? I want this mag to go into the gun. So I'm gonna take my eyes off the target or whatever I'm doing, and I'm going to drive my eyes to that and insert the mag. For consistency with the reload support hand, I wanna index this mag the same way every time. So as I come down, I swoop in. I'm looking to bury the top of this mag in my palm. That's gonna give me a good, secure grip on the mag. So boom, I bury the mag into my palm, like so, and I use my pointer finger along the front of the mag with the bullets. At that point, from here, I find my my home base for my elbow right here. Mag gets indexed, comes out, gun gets rotated over. I'm shifting, pushing the mag in, and then reestablishing my master grip as I'm coming back up to get whatever appropriate conformation level I need to re-engage that target array. All right, so just slow motion, what it'll look like. We're not gonna go live yet. So I draw the gun, I fire, index and drop mag, bring elbow in, drop, drive eyes to the mag well, start inserting the mag, reestablish master grip, and go back to shooting. All right. Now on the re-index, I need to recreate what I've been shooting with, right? So I don't want to draw the mag and then just start shooting from here, right? I need to insert the mag, reset the pressures right, and then put the gun back in my target eye line like I normally would. All right. So we don't want to just forget about all the shooting stuff that made us successful before because we just added a little bit of weapons handling into the course of fire. All right, guys, so now that we have an understanding of the mechanics that we're trying to create, I like to start off with a 𝗙𝗢 reload. Like I said, this is great for you to do in your dry fire. You can get a lot of reps in without having to bend over and pick up mags. So the 𝗙𝗢 reload was created by Mr. 𝗙𝗢, and he created this technique of dry fire to develop your reloads, right? So what this all is just part of the reload, but the most important part. So like we talked about, you'll start here, you'll press the trigger, you'll hit the magazine release, quickly indexing your mag as we showed, and then I'm gonna bring the gun in and index the mag right to the lip. And that's going to give me a 𝗙𝗢 reload, which is just part of the way. Then we'll finish it. So I'll just do a couple of them, right? You can work these into your dry fire. This is really good when you're trying to work hand speed and alignment and getting those guns to come together correctly so you can have an efficient reload. Right? Once we have that, then we can go into the full reload. All right, reestablishing the grip, do a couple of the full ones then. All right, making sure we're reassessing that index every time. So you do a couple of them, and then we'll get into the full send where we're gonna draw, shoot to, reload, shoot to. The shooting, we're gonna assess just like we did the doubles. We just have an extra layer of the draw stroke and the reload and the re-index with all the additional weapons handling. You can do this static without the draw. For this particular demonstration, we'll add the draw in. But if you're having problems with putting all the layers together, there's no problem with just removing the draw stroke from it and just isolating that component for a little bit and then bring it back into the full thing. All right, so that's a moderate, comfortable speed. We can obviously add some hand speed to that and try to make that a little bit faster. I would refine that with the 𝗙𝗢 reload and then work it into the full reload. So we'll send some heat at this, right, and see what we can accomplish. Like I said, this is all weapons handling, very low level of shooting. We're 5 yards from the target. We're just talking about the weapons handling and then the re-index on the target. A lot of this can be accomplished, if not the majority of it, in dry fire, like I said. Let's do one last one. We'll try to do some really fast one. See what happens. These duty mag carriers are a little more difficult because of the retention on them than a traditional mag pouch. But no excuses. Let's see if we can get this thing moving. Alrighty. So that gave that reload of, that's a 130 out of retention pouches. So that's a little bit slow. I'd like to get that a little bit faster. But but nonetheless, the retention of these pouches are really, really tough, and they don't fly out. But this is what most likely you'd be using on duty, an S-tag pouch that has a lot of retention, not a competition style mag pouch. So you're definitely going to lose a little bit there. But nonetheless, I think it's doable to get that down a little bit faster than that. Let's try one more time, and let's see if we can get that a little bit faster. All right. Yeah, a 116 reload out of that. I'll take that. That's not too bad. Obviously, I'm not grading the re-index too much because of the conformation level that's required, that we'll talk about later on, is very low to hit A zone hits at 6-7 yards. So yeah, these are the mechanics that I want you to focus on. This is what I want you looking at, and this is going to lead you to success. But remember, this is done in dry fire. Don't prioritize a ton of your live fire in doing this. It's kind of wasted range time and ammo. This could all be done. And then when you're at the range, set up a course of fire that requires you to execute several different layers, and just have a reload in there and let it be more subconscious, where it should be more subconscious, to see if you actually possess that level of skill. This is where matches do a great job, right? You're going to do, especially where I'm at in New Jersey with low cap mags, you're going to do a ton of reloads throughout a stage, right? So every stage is going to have 3 reloads, probably at least 2, sometimes 3 to 4 reloads, right? So you get a lot of reloads coming here, and they have to be done fast, and they have to be done in a subconscious manner to get that gun back up and start executing again and collecting points. All right, guys, that wraps up our tutorial for building consistent reloads. Stay tuned for the next episode, where we're talking about visual confirmation levels and blending targets.